Hi, and welcome to Bay Area Independent Filmmakers, a show in search of up-and-coming Bay Area creatives with a unique voice in the art of filmmaking. I'm your new host, Rosie Cruz, taking over for the ultra-talented and beautiful Connie Jo Seacrest. I have some big shoes to fill, and I know that. So I'm really grateful for the opportunity to be your new host here and bringing you people that inspire me to be creative. I'm here with writer, director, and producer Jayson Johnson of Strike 5 Films. Welcome,
Hey.
Jayson.
Hey, what's up, Rosie? Hey, I want to give a shout out to you. So, hey, shout out to my girl, Rosie C., my boy, Steve Nichols, Anna L., and I want to give a middle finger up to all my haters and rivals out there. How y'all doing? What's up?
How are you doing today?
I'm doing great.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, I'm living the life.
I can see that. You know, I've heard a lot about you lately on what you've been doing with narrative short films and music videos, but I always like to ask about where people come from and like some of their background. So let's start with that.
Okay.
Where did you grow up, and how did you get from there to California?
That's a long story, but I'll start off. I'm from the Chicago suburbs, west suburbs, and I went to school at Eastern Illinois University, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I knew that I didn't want to do everything what everyone else was doing. Like, I didn't want to wear a suit, and I saw this little dude in the back of the room who had like a bow tie on, and I was like, yo, that's what I want to do. I didn't even know what he was doing, but I was like, that's what I want to do, and it turned out it happened to be speech communication, radio, TV, and film. So, I signed up for the program, started taking the classes, and just fell in love with it. And then, as that time for undergrad ended, grad school came up, and then I had to find out where I'm going to live, where am I going to work at. So my girl at the time, she had this idea that, we'll stick together. And I said, okay, that's cool, but under one stipulation, I'm not going to move to California. And I'll move anywhere but California. So, came up like 2 weeks later, she was like, yo, I got a job. And I was like, good, where's it at? It's California. I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? So I left. So I went with her. And that's how I got to California.
So, when you got to California, what sort of, you were looking for a job and you were seeking out being a filmmaker, how did you get into working in film and television here?
So, even though I took the classes in college, I didn't think that I would have opportunity to be a filmmaker because, I don't really know any of the camera stuff. So I knew I just needed a job. So I just went on Craigslist and started looking for stuff. I was just applying for anything, garbage men, street sweepers, whatever. And the only place that called me was Francis Ford Coppola Presents, the winery.
You found that on Craigslist?
I found it on Craigslist.
Wow.
So.
Did you knew who Francis Ford Coppola was,
Yeah,
I believe, right?
I did, but I didn't know that I didn't know I was applying for Francis Coppola on Craigslist. It just said high profile family, and that could be anybody, it could be like, Steve Jobs. So I filled out the application. I went to the location, which was Rutherford State, and they're asking me all these questions about wine. I'm just like, what are you asking me questions about wine for, man? I don't know nothing about wine. And one guy was just like, can you work on weekends? And I said, sure. And that was how I got my job.
So that was a deal sealer, if
Yeah.
you could work on weekends. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
So what did you do at Francis Ford Coppola's winery? That's one of my favorites, by the way. I got to admit, I love it there.
It's cool. It's cool. At the beginning, I was pouring wine. People would be like, so what's your story? And then I'd pour like something red in the glass, and I'd be like, yo, this is our new Chardonnay. They'd be like, it ain't Chardonnay. And then that's when they was like, yo, Jay, this ain't for you. And I got demoted down to the mail room. And from the mail room, I had to go deliver all the mail to the property. And then that's when I met this guy, I forgot his name, but he was like, he just finished smoking a joint, and he was like, yo, it's just hippies up here making movies. It was just like, you like to smoke weed? And I was like, yeah, everybody likes to smoke weed. So I smoked a joint with him, and then he told me about, making movies. And then that's when I started to like really get interested in it. So
So how long were you at Francis Ford Coppola's winery, and you transitioned into a different department there? Is that how it worked?
Yeah, so after the mailroom, I started to intern, and I landed on Marie Antoinette, and I started doing post-production for that. And then after a while, I got invited to be a prop master for Francis Ford Coppola's traveling roadshow performance. So I had to make, all these little things, make a hot sauce bottle that, shoots out fire and stuff like that. I didn't know how to do that, but it's just like, I go on YouTube, look at stuff, figure it out. And yeah, so that's kind of how I got started working with him, and then from there I started working with his Crazy Ideas department.
Oh,
so it just kind of snowballed one thing after another.
So talk about the Crazy Ideas department. That sounds really interesting.
So the Crazy Ideas department is kind of like a marketing team within the winery, and that team does a whole bunch of off-ball ideas for his wine ideas, some of his film ideas, his resorts, and all this stuff. So we were tasked to kind of create ideas and just think of things that were not traditional that you see in regular media. So
that's really interesting. So how long were you there?
I was there for like 4 years. I stayed there for 4 years, and then at the end of the 4 years, I got fired. So I'm gonna keep it real, keeping it real.
Okay, so you moved on.
Yeah, I moved on. Yeah.
And then you moved on into creating your own production company, Strike 5 Films, and
after that, I got hired by the city of Napa to be their creative director, which was really interesting.
Wow, some things just work for us, doesn't it? You left Francis Ford Coppola and became a creative director. Wow, that's insane. So what did you do there?
So there, I just I did a lot of advertising to kind of get people to go to downtown and to hang out and to kind of be part of the whole Napa scene. So I would do adverts, little commercials, just little things here and there.
I mean, it's not hard to attract people to Napa and Sonoma. And
yeah, it was just like, what do you need me for?
No-brainer. But well, that's really interesting. I have to admit, I did a little bit of research on you, and I found out that in 2008, you created your own TV show.
Yes.
That's really interesting, and it lasted for quite a while. I saw there's a gazillion, at least on IMDb, there was quite a few episodes. So tell me about that show. What inspired you to do that? And, what's your takeaway from that?
Yeah, so I call that show the Jayson Johnson Show. I named it after myself, obviously. And what spawned that was I would go on Craigslist, because as a beginning filmmaker, you just want to get started. And I was like, well, how do I meet people? How do I get on something? So I would go on Craigslist and look for all these things, and everyone would universally turn me down. They were like, nope, sorry, dude. Nope, you don't got what it takes. So I was just like, well, I'm just going to make my own stuff. So Jayson Johnson Show was just me. I had a web camera and just some editing software. And I just said, well, if they're not going to let me do it, then fuck it. I'm going to do it myself. And that's kind of how it started. So I just started kind of just doing little skits here and there. And it was silly, but I was teaching myself how to edit, how to frame shots, and do all that shit. So that's kind of how I started. Was
this on YouTube?
Yeah, I put it on YouTube at first, and then I started to build my community on Facebook, because I figured, I'm connected to these people, and they already know that, they know me as a person. So if I'm a jackass on camera, then what does it matter? So it's just like, so I'm just going to use the format, and then I'm just going to see how people like it. Do they like it or not? And once I got a little bit of success on Facebook, then that gave me the confidence to put it on YouTube.
Wow. Wow. So if anybody wanted to see some of your old work,
I'll leave it all up there.
It is there. Okay.
Yeah,
so
I'll leave it there. Yeah.
That's interesting. I'm going to go check one of the episodes out. That sounds like a lot of fun, don't you think? So you also did a lot of producing in your early years as well. And did that lead you into narrative films? Is that the direction you wanted to go back then?
Yeah, so after I finished with the Jayson Johnson Show, I felt that I had took it as far as I could take it. So after like 24, 25 episodes, I just said, okay. And I thought that I had enough skills that I could go and produce something real. So back on Craigslist, I found there's a Bollywood film, and they were looking for a producer. And so I contacted them, went to the interview, and they said, what are producing jobs you had? And I said, oh, I've done so much and blah, 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 blah. And, I was just talking about my own stuff. I was really lying, but, I was telling them, what I could do. So after I lied, I got the job. And then I was like, oh, shit, I really got to do this now, So that kind of came to fruition. And so I would be on set, I'd look on my iPhone on how to do something, and then I would tell them. And then that's literally how I did it.
Wow.
They would be like, Jayson, how do we do this? I was like, just 1 second. And look on my iPhone, I would tell them. That's how I got it. So, and it was a success. The movie, I don't think the movie did very well, but, I got it made. So.
Well, that's really interesting. These are some great tips and resources on being creative. So I really am thankful that you're very open about this. At the same time, I don't know if it would work for everybody, but it worked for you. And then that led you to other narrative films later down the line.
Yeah, I think for me, I've never been scared to take on something, and even if I don't know how to do it, then I'll always say yes. So watch out, employers out there. But yeah, so I feel that you should always say yes, and then you should figure it out as you go along. And I feel like that is the best type of employee because they're going to bring intensity to it, and they're going to be working to figure it out, and they're going to be running by the seat of their pants. So that's kind of how I do it.
That's really interesting. I've been doing a lot of programs with leadership and self-development and stuff. And some of the key things that they do talk about in a lot of these self-development programs is don't worry so much about the how. Just it's about the mindset and committing to it, which is what you talk about right now.
Absolutely.
You just say yes, and you go and figure it out. You figure out how to do it. So it really is secondary to the imagination, in the knowledge of how to do something versus the imagination of let's figure it out. Let's go. Committing to it, and that's number one. That's key. So that's really interesting.
Yeah, I remember on that movie, one of the first tasks that they gave me was like, yo, we want to film on Cal Berkeley's campus. And I had never filled out a film permit before. I didn't know anything about locations or anything like that. So I said, all right, well, everybody put on Cal Berkeley shirts and we're gonna act like we're students and we're gonna go film there. And then they were like, so it was working. And I was just like, wow, this is incredible. I can't believe it. So we were getting away with it. And then they were like, oh, Jayson, by the way, we want to film in a classroom. And then, I said, okay, I'll go into a hall. We started opening up doors. But this time I opened up a door. It was a teacher's office. And she was like, security. So, I took off running. I thought I was going to get arrested. But, it's like, you can't be scared to just try something, It's just like, I took off running. I disappeared in Berkeley. They didn't find me. So it was just like, it was all good. So we got it. And by the time that we got caught, we were done. We was wrapping up. And it was just like, it was done. So it was just like, when we had, and one of my first jobs was I successfully, getting a location. So that's how we did it.
It's funny. So let's bring you up to your current projects. I know you've come a long way. Fast forward to 2017.
Yeah.
You created a bunch of different projects, but two of them are narrative short films with some really powerful topics. The first one is called Redress, and the second one is called Lifeline. So let's take a look at those trailers. So we're going to show the clip, which is called Redress right now, and then talk about it when you come back.
Cool.
Whoa. But I think we fixed it.
Yeah.
Okay. That drunk son of a bitch. Where's the fucking justice in that?
So where's he live?
What do you care?
So I think I might be able to help you get some justice.
Wow, that was a really powerful trailer there. So
Thank you.
tell me about the topic of redress and what inspired you to write that.
So I was inspired. I saw this documentary on Nazis being recruited as kids, and these kids weren't necessarily racist to begin with, but they were just looking for somewhere or something to belong to. And that was kind of the gist of the documentary. And I was just like, oh wow, this is kind of crazy, because you know we're living in high racial times right now. And one day I was driving home, and just for whatever reason everything clicked, and the story just kind of came to me. And so I went home and I wrote it. And but yeah, I wanted to talk about why people kind of take these routes that they do when that's not necessarily who they are in the beginning with. So that's kind of what I wanted to tell with Redress.
So where is Redress now? What's happening with that film?
So we finished it, and it's entered into, I want to say 48 film festivals.
Wow.
And so far we've had, I think we've gotten into 6 or 7 film festivals. So I wrote the script in, I want to say I wrote the script in probably about a week and a half, and then I'm the type of writer, I write it and then I can't look at it anymore until I have to. So when I wrote it, I started to just send it to all these film festivals thinking that, oh, it's crap, you know, no one's gonna care, no one's gonna say anything. And much to my surprise, it started to like win some of these things, and I was like, wow, you know, this is kind of crazy. And that's kind of how that got started. But yeah, it's in some film festivals now.
So how did you figure to put a team together to support the project itself? What did you look like? What were your first few steps, and how was that experience? And after that?
Okay, so first, I think as a filmmaker, you have to look around and like, what do you have? So you're kind of like reverse engineering it. I knew I had an old beat up car. I knew that I was working for Indigo Films, which does Wives with Knives, and you know I almost got away with it. So I had access to some cameras, a clapper, and some people that might be down to do it if the story was good. And by then, when I started to kind of say, oh, okay, this might work, the film had already won a couple of film festivals as far as the script was concerned. So I was just like, hey, do you want to work on an award-winning script? That was kind of my pitch. And then, you know, much to my surprise, people were like, well, yeah, actually, I do. And that's kind of, you know, that's kind of how it kind of came to start. You know, it's just, you know, I just took one step and it just kind of snowballed into the next thing. Yeah.
Were you focused in on just hiring locally and from on camera to behind the camera, or were you advised to do that? How did that experience work?
Well, me being a Bay nigga, I always want to fuck with the Bay. You know, I always want to fuck with people from the Bay Area just because I feel like that's where my heart is. Even though I'm from Chicago, I've been here long enough where it's just the Bay's got a certain energy to it where it's just like the people that I wanted to have on the team needed to match that and have that, and I think that we got that.
Yeah, I agree. There's lots and lots of great talent here, and we just need to find them and put them to work. You know, everybody has a voice. I think that's really important.
Yeah, there's so much talent up here, and people sell themselves short because as soon as they get a little bit of success, they take their ass down to L.A. and they be part of the big casting, or I don't want to say casting couch, but you know, cattle call.
Yeah.
You know, everybody else. You know, so just like keep your ass here and let's do good stuff here, and then we won't have to worry about that.
I agree. Yeah. So where do you see Redress? What do you see the future for Redress? What would you like to happen with that movie? Ideally.
I guess I would just I I really just would like to have some kind of success, you know. And if that means we get into like a major film festival, hey, that's, you know, I'm all for that. But you know, I really just wanted to have people on a quality project. I wanted to meet some people, and I wanted to just finally break out of my shell as a filmmaker and say, yo, I'm going to do this, and this is my first project.
Well, you also took on another really powerful topic, and you put that on film called Lifeline. So we're going to watch this trailer here. That's great.
Yeah, but I mean, we could just insert the video. Okay, yeah, just keep
Okay,
going.
okay. Wow, that was really powerful. I think that's a really hard topic to tackle, the topic of suicide. And why did you take on this project? Tell me about that.
Well, there was a filmmaker that I met at your actors conference. Plug out for the actors conference out there, y'all actors that need help. Actors conference. All right. Anyway, so yeah, I met this actor, and he was like, "Yo, I really want to do this project. I'm very passionate about suicide." And I was like, "Can't you be passionate about like cookies or something like that?" But it was interesting. So I asked him to see his script, and he showed it to me, and I thought that, wow, I think we could have something with this. And it's talking about a guy's last final moments on this earth, and he's reaching out to people that have affected him on this earth. So I thought with that maybe we could do something powerful, and that's kind of how that started.
And where is Lifeline right now?
Lifeline is in post-production. We are probably about a week or two from being complete. And then after that, we will, I hope that we will also go the festival route and probably enter into 30 or 40 festivals. So I'm excited for this one to be done and to move on to the next project.
Oh, so tell me, do you have anything in the wings coming up for 2018?
I do,
Okay.
yeah. I'm a man that's always writing and creating, you know, so.
So if anybody wanted to get in, like, a hold of you for any future projects to collaborate with, or how would, are you on Facebook? What's your social media handles?
I'm Jayson Johnson, Jayson Johnson. My Instagram is at jjohnson155, but you can just Google me.
Yeah,
You could
you
Google
got that?
me.
You could just Google him.
Yeah.
And if they wanted to watch some of your projects, is it also on your channel on YouTube?
Yeah, I got a whole bunch of just old, Jayson Johnson goofy stuff on there. I'll tell you why I left all that stuff up there, because wherever I go or whatever I achieve in life, I always want to be humble and know that that's where it started from. It started from nobody wanting to work with me, and that I just had just these couple things around, and I needed to get my start. So that's really important that I leave that up to people, hopefully as an inspirational tool.
Well, I have one more question for you.
All right.
If you could leap back in time, let's say 15 years back, and talk to yourself, what would you say to yourself knowing what you know now as a filmmaker, as a creative, and all that?
I would say don't wait on anyone to make your dreams happen. You got to make them happen for yourself. And I spent some time going to work, trying to do the 9-to-5 thing, when deep down I knew that I wanted to be a filmmaker. And I was waiting for someone to forward me that opportunity when I should have just been doing it myself, the whole time. So I would tell my 15-year-old self, or 15 years ago self, that, just make it happen for yourself. Even if you don't know how to do it, just go ahead and do it, just because once you have that mindset, it's gonna be all good. And even if you mess up, who cares? Who cares? At least you tried, So that's really all that matters.
Wow, well, thank you. Okay, one more question. I don't want to let you go too soon.
All right.
So, if you had 24 hours to live, what does that 24 hours look like? And what would you be doing? Who would be with you? Let's just have fun. I just want to know.
Honestly, I'd probably get a blunt, something to drink, I'd have my girl with me, and we'd probably be playing Fortnite or something. And then after that, then, you know, I'd hope to smash after that, but, you know, it's all good after that. But yeah, it's nothing too complex. Because, you know, I hear people be like, oh, well, I would go to Rome and blah, blah, blah. I was like, you know, I'm already traveling anyway. So it's just like, if you live in your life and not hating on other people, then you don't got to worry about doing all that because you already done did it. So for me, I just want to chill, you know, just keep it real.
So you're living the life that you want to live.
I'm living the life that I want to live, and you know,
I love it.
everybody else, hey, I suspect that you should do it. You get to living your life because you can't live mine. It's already taken.
Why, thank you. I'm like, you gave me this earlier. Thank you very much for coming on board. I hope you enjoyed the show, and come visit us for the next show coming up, and we'll make an announcement on Facebook to let you know who's going to be interviewed on Bay Area Filmmakers. Thank you for joining us.